Today we're talking about death and how the Buddhists, in particular Tibetan Buddhists, understand death and understand the process of transition into next life. So that's actually quite a rich topic. The Buddhists and many other significant religions and many other significant cultures have a lot of different interpretations of what happens after death. So I want to just sort of talk about what actually happens in the Buddhist paradigm, what happens after death. Today I can only take you through a very quick glance of what the death experience. Because maybe in the advanced classes, I can take you through this, which is the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And this goes into extraordinary amounts of detail of the subjective experience of a person dying and how to prepare for death.
Practice.
Absolutely. Every single day. Because death is so not nice in the Western paradigm, in the sense that we try not to talk about it. When we talk about it, people get nervous, they try to avoid it, they try to think it will never happen, and even if it does happen, it's nothing more than just a significant loss, maybe very sad. But there's different interpretations, and in the Buddhists they look at death as an extraordinary important moment in the person's not only life. It's almost like studying all your life, and death is like the examination day. So death is so important because that's when all your efforts and your whole life actually start to count. Because what happens at the moment of death is that the dying process, you slowly lose your consciousness, slowly, because it sort of phases into this sort of hazy feeling. In fact, once you transition into death, it's like in the moment in your dreams. Wherever your mind carries you, you can go, you can pass through walls, you can pass through paradigms. If you're thinking about some loved one in America, you can immediately go there. Like in your dream, there's no boundaries. That's absolutely when your mind starts to count. Because what happens is that the body starts to slowly shut down. And then what gets transferred, what left over, some people call this consciousness, but the Buddhists call it, there's two things that gets transferred. One is called the habitual energies, and the second is called karma. So, and that's a very, very subtle form of consciousness. And that very, very subtle form of consciousness will slowly leave the body through many different exits. And the Buddhists prefer, depending on which exit you leave, for example, if you leave from this chest heart area, then you're most likely to be reborn into a human. If you leave from like the genital area or the leg area, these are all the lower three realms of reincarnation. So ideally, they encourage the final habitual energy, and they call it consciousness, to leave from the top of the head, leave here. When it leaves, it's about that high of energy. Sometimes they say it looks like a baby or whatever, but it's something like this. It starts leaving. And once it leaves the body, it's like, for example, in a lot of things that happen in the hospital, people say they have near-death experiences. They see themselves lying on the hospital bed. So when it actually leaves, you can actually see and sense as well. You can see yourself lying in the hospital bed, people sort of trying to give you CPR, trying to revive you. You can see your family, you can see all these things. Sometimes you are revived and you go back straight in, and then you're revived. But sometimes you distance yourself and you can never get back in again. That's absolute severed. Fully dead. Body is fully dead. But your consciousness is out. And usually this period is called Bado, or the Bado, that's a Tibetan word, or the intermediary state, the transitioning state, Zhongyin, where You leave a physical body and then you're looking for another physical body to enter. So that's it. So you're leaving out of this, and then you're looking at yourself and you're in a huge amount of shock. And most people just go panic because they see their wife crying or their son's crying or their husband crying, and then like this, oh, it's a mess. They want to get back in but they can't, and all sorts of things. There's an absolutely huge amount of shock. And then right after the shock is fear. Huge amount of fear that is generated in this. And then what happens after that? So during the intermediary state, of course the spirit is what in Buddhism they call the consciousness comes out. And then once the consciousness slowly starts to understand that the physical body is dead, they cannot return, then they go into a period. Some people don't stay very long in the intermediary state. So they die and then bang. They go straight to hell, go straight to heaven, go straight reborn, etc., etc. Depending on their karma, if they're extremely, extremely good people, and their mind is filled with heavenly thoughts, because they have conducted a life in which their mind is filled with things like this, then immediately after their death, they create the heaven, and then they see, they dwell, and that sort of thing. If their mind is filled with things that's similar in hell, they're so attuned, it's like tuning the instrument. Their mind is so tuned to that frequency. Goes in there. But most people spend a bit of time wandering around, visiting family, trying to figure out what they want, trying to search, and trying to find right places to be born. What usually happens at this period is very, very critical, because without practice, they say it's like a feather in the wind. The wind is like karma, and then you land wherever you land. You become a dog, you become a human, you become born in heaven or hell, whatever. So, to end, I'd like to just, because we're talking about mind tools, and I'd just like to talk about how death could be a very important mind tool for us in everyday life. For me, death is probably one of the most important mind tools every day of mine, because it's a key part of my practice. I take it quite seriously. Not so much death as in, oh look, I'm so looking forward to dying. But death in the sense that I know that everything's so impermanent. Like you absolutely need to realize that next second you might not be here.